All right, what's up, everyone? This is a new episode of Sports Harder coming at you live on this Friday evening. I am your host, as always, Maddie Lukewarm Ice, and we have a special co-host for the first half of our episode. We got I don't have a nickname for Brian. Gosh, I should have thought of that beforehand. Everybody else has the cool nicknames, but my awesome brother-in-law, Brian Helton, the logo designer. How's it going, Brian?
Good. Thanks for having me on. No
Yeah,
nickname required.
what's up?
No nickname required.
No
It's all
nickname
right.
required. I feel like you need something like Andy Dalton with like the gingerness, going on, like,
Oh
uh,
yeah, I haven't gotten that my whole life, right?
we appreciate you coming on the show, especially for doing the new logo for us. We got it sent out everywhere, got it posted everywhere. So it looks awesome. We've gotten people to ask us to come onto their podcast because of it. They noticed it and they asked us to come on their show. So they're
Awesome.
very, very grateful that you were able to do that for us. So we're going to just start off the first 30 minutes with having you on the show. And then later on, we're going to have my normal co-host, Chris. He couldn't be on this segment. He's got some family stuff he's taking care of. But the first thing we'll start off with you, I guess, introduce yourself a little bit, kind of what kind of sports you follow, what teams you follow.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, you got the name already, Brian. So obviously, I'm your brother-in-law. So married into the family there. So I actually, yeah, so I grew up in Michigan. So, I'm all things Michigan sports. Born and raised there. Grew up watching the Lions there, and big football fan. So you take it with that. We've had some history there, of course, but yeah. So unfortunately, Lions fan. Also grew up watching hockey though too. So big Red Wings fan, and we had a good era there. So proud of that. And then I don't follow basketball quite so much. I do college, especially in the spring when we get towards March Madness. But the pros have never been my jam. And then baseball, similar to the college basketball. I kind of follow it more as the season progresses. 162 games is a lot to keep track of. So, as we get down to the wire, I pay a little bit more attention. But so I moved down to Virginia. I'm a big Hokie fan, of course. Graduated from Virginia Tech, so also a big Hokie fan. But yeah, mostly college football, college basketball, a little bit, and then professional football.
Awesome. Well, it's cool that you mentioned following March Madness. Once it gets closer to that, we are getting closer and closer. So we're going to do our normal March Madness bracket challenge. And I think we'll do the winner getting some more artwork from the local artist in Utah that knows our co-host. The person who won the Super Bowl bet won the Mandalorian artwork that we had posted on our page. So he was excited about getting that. I think some of that tombstone artwork we're gonna like roll over into the March Madness and kind of give that like as a prize because no one else picked the Bucks to win the Super Bowl other than Boo Boo. So it's kind of hard to give a second and third place prize when no one else picked the Bucks to win. So
Sometimes you got to just pick against the grain.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, awesome. Well, being a Detroit fan, obviously, we've talked about it on the show already a couple times, but you being a Detroit fan, it's nice to get a fan's perspective of things. So obviously, we're going to talk about the Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff trade. Obviously, with that, you guys get some number one picks coming at you in the future. Now, not to bust on you being a Detroit fan, but Detroit hasn't always been the best drafting team in the past. What kind of, I guess, how do you feel about the trade, getting Goff? And then how do you feel that the Lions should use these picks that they have coming their way going forward?
Yeah, good questions. So yeah, being a Detroit fan, we go through this every 3 or 4 years. So this is kind of the Detroit Lions are run a bit like a political system, where you just reelect new people every now and then, and cycle out the old and in with the new, and of course, as a Lions fan, you kind of you take that in stride, and when your time is up to rebuild, you're ready. You look at it, and you can't help yourself but be optimistic. That's what being a fan is, and so. I was a big Matt Patricia fan. I really wanted him from the beginning. I was on board, and I was wrong. So I admit that. And I think culturally there's some detriment to the Lions there. There's a lot of things that have changed in the ownership too. Martha Ford's not the owner per se that she once was. Recently, she handed off a lot of that control to her daughter, her daughter-in-law, I think, and she's done some interesting things from the beginning in terms of setting the culture and changing that a little bit. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's just me looking for confirmation bias and trying to find reasons to believe again. But I think that the things that they're doing are good. I think they're in line with my values and where I'd like to see them go. And that starts back in the summer in some of the decisions they made. I'm a huge Matt Stafford fan. I could not be happier for him. My big concern going into the trade speculation was that he would end up somewhere where he wouldn't be able to compete, and the Lions wouldn't take care of him. And I think they did. The Rams were the place he wanted to go. That was the one. And I was one that was skeptical. I didn't see that as a viable option when the speculation came out, just because of the baggage that Goff had there and the contract situation. And but I'm excited. I'm excited for him. I think he's got a great opportunity to compete. I think he's got equally good, if not better, weapons in LA, especially in the run game. And it's a young team that is poised to make the decisions they need to make to succeed. So that part of it, I couldn't be happier about. I'm going to continue watching him and rooting for him. So you've got me on board as a Rams fan now. And,
yes, finally.
So yeah, happy for him. From the Lions perspective, I think they did great. I think I think it worked out in everybody's favor. I think this was a trade that, they succeeded in giving Matt Stafford a place to go that he wanted to go. And they succeeded in getting top bill for him and his worth. And I think that, that was the best offer they got, which is great. So it worked out for them. Goff, it'll be interesting. So I see my take on it is I think Goff is a transitional quarterback. I think that he's not their long-term solution. He's still pretty young. But I see him serving more of a mentor. I wouldn't be surprised if they did draft a quarterback with, I think they've got the 9th pick this year. If somebody fell to them, somebody like Justin Fields. But I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't either, and they wanted to test out Goff for a year or two and wait further down another year or so, which I think is another awesome point for Goff and something in favor of Detroit. If that's their approach, I think that's a system in the NFL that has worked wonders for teams that are willing to invest. As much as I loathe the Green Bay Packers, that situation with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, that's how they work. They bring in quarterbacks and they groom them. And when they're ready, they're ready. And teams who are in need of a quarterback and have to force somebody in there, it's often a tough situation. And I don't think it often works out the way they'd hoped. So I like the idea that, if that's what they're doing and they're setting themselves up for more of a put Goff in this position to mentor, a young quarterback and usher in kind of the next generation of the next Matt Stafford, I think that's a great position for them to be in.
Yeah, I've kind of said that before on the podcast that I feel like he's not the quarterback of the future. I mean, with Goff, he's proven that under pressure and having people come at him, that he turns the ball over a lot more often than not. Matthew Stafford, I feel like, is kind of going into a better offensive line than he did in Detroit. So with Goff going into, do you feel like he's going into a worse situation where he's going to still be, turning the ball over a lot because, Detroit doesn't have like the offensive line to be able to really protect him?
Yeah. So I think, it's definitely going to be more challenging. Stafford's definitely set up for the more immediate success. The Lions have more work to do there for sure. I think if they can work the system that they've got, and of course we haven't talked about the draft picks yet either. I think if they're smart with the draft picks, there's a chance we can improve that offensive line through the draft. We certainly have a lot of options now, and there's other people the Lions still have on the table as potential trade options too that could present even further rebuilding opportunities. I think it's going to be up to the coaching staff and the offensive coordinators to try to alleviate that, right? And try to put him in systems where we do, maybe we go back to the West Coast offense and it's quick slants and it's short routes and, try to set up a play action, and work with the quarterback that you have, to succeed that way. So.
And then I don't know if you've heard or not, but with me following it a little bit more closely, a lot of the wide receivers from Detroit have been reaching out to Stafford, trying to follow him to the Rams. Obviously, the Rams have a pretty decent wide receiver core already. But do you feel that, Galladay or Marvin Jones could potentially, be ducking out as well just because Detroit's kind of in a rebuild mode, or?
Well, and I kind of alluded to it already. Kenny Galladay's already in a position for that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they dealt him just because his contract is right for that. I don't know if it'd be the Rams because, like you said, they've got a decent wide receiver core. It's not top tier, but they've got enough to work with, and especially given what they're investing in Stafford, I think it would behoove them to at least give Stafford the opportunity with the core that they've got and see if he can bring the best out in the wide receivers that are on that team already before they go invest in somebody like Galladay or Marvin Jones Jr. Because those guys are pretty good wide receivers league wide. Yeah. So they would cost something too to get if they wanted to go that route, unless they hit free agency or something. So I don't know if they go to the Rams, but yeah, I can see an opportunity where, if you're going to go completely rebuild, from bottom up, you can do it through draft picks. There's some really great receivers, coming into the draft this year. And, I think that depending on how they fall again, with the picks that the Lions have, they've got holes everywhere. So, I think it really is, they're in a great position to just see what falls to them in the draft and get what they get. And if they get trade offers for, if they don't want somebody like Fields, they can easily trade down and still have good options, in the middle or towards the end of the first round. So yeah, to answer your question, I wouldn't be surprised if they dealt the wide receivers they've got, but I don't know that if it would be towards the Rams. But I didn't think Stafford was going there either. So I've been wrong before.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I started hearing the rumors of maybe it being Stafford, I kind of figured it's a done deal, just because once you start hearing rumors and hearsays and stuff, it kind of is solidified almost. It's like, it's going to happen, just when type of thing. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if they get dealt somewhere else. We could use a deep threat, just because we don't have a deep threat wide receiver. So even if we got one in the draft, like you said, there's a lot of good wide receivers coming out in the draft this year. We get one on a rookie contract and put him in there with Stafford as another weapon. It can only mean good things. So it'll be interesting. I mean, the Rams only have like a second round pick and like a fourth or something like that. They don't have very many picks this year. So in the second round, they really have to hit on that pick. So, and I don't think we're going to go defense just because, I mean, we had the number one defense last year. So don't really need to improve too much on defense unless we feel like some pieces are going to leave in free agency. So, but all right, cool. Well, the other big thing that happened was obviously the Carson Wentz trade, which is kind of ironic that Jared Goff and Carson Wentz are now on two different teams, led their original teams to Super Bowls. Carson Wentz obviously didn't win it for them. Jared Goff didn't win it for them. So they weren't able to win it, but they at least made it to a Super Bowl as the number one and number two picks in the draft the year that they went. So Carson Wentz now going to the Colts for a second round pick and a third round pick, which kind of just blows my mind that Jared Goff got traded to the Lions for 2 first round picks. And then Carson Wentz, who technically won a Super Bowl, he has a ring, only got a second and a third round pick. I thought once the Stafford Goff trade happened, everyone else's stock was going to rise up and everyone was going to ask for more for their quarterback trades, because this offseason, the quarterback carousel is going to be crazy. There's going to be quarterbacks going to all kinds of different teams. So who do you think won in this trade with Carson Wentz going to the Colts and the Eagles only getting a couple picks from it?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be like a naysayer or kind of a, but I can see a case for both, right? I think Wentz he's got just an interesting history, and I think that there's some chemistry with the Eagles that led to the situation he was in. And when you start getting into a situation where mentally it's not good for you, then physically it's not going to be good either. So in a way, I definitely see this as a second opportunity for Wentz. I kind of see it as like the Phillip Rivers to Indianapolis, kind of like maybe Indianapolis is being, is going to get a reputation for being, second chance Colts or something, but like, Phillip Rivers did the same thing. I think he kind of fell out of love. And look at Drew Brees. Drew Brees started with the Chargers and then went on to do amazing things with, the Saints. So there's definitely a case where, if he can get himself out of what he probably feels like is a toxic environment and go to someplace with a better culture and thrive, that could be a really good situation for him. And again, personally, the Colts were another one that I wouldn't mind seeing Stafford go to, because I think they're ready to compete. I think they're ready to win that division and go on to a Super Bowl. And they're just missing that, and they had it, right? They had Rivers, and he was doing great things for him. So I think if they can bring, Wentz out of that, the sort of cultural lull he was in, I think he'll do great things. And as far as what the Eagles got for him, I don't think Wentz did himself any favors, right? I don't think he was able to raise his stock. The thing that I think separates Stafford, and again, personally, I follow Detroit, and so I feel like I know Stafford a little bit better as just a person. But that dude worked. He worked for the people around him, and that went outside the facility too. He worked for the city, and he's an icon there, and he'll always have a place there because of that. So I don't think Wentz has that rapport with the league and the people around him to demand that kind of value. So, and that could change, right? He could go into the Colts and have, a renewed experience and become a new man and revitalize his career there. But I think the way that he kind of dwindled in Philadelphia kind of harmed his value there, and what they could get for him. So, it'll certainly be interesting to see how it pans out and if he can reboot his career a little bit there.
Yeah, I think the major thing in my perspective is injury wise. If he can stay healthy and be able to show that he can compete in the playoffs, I feel like every year they made the playoffs, he got injured like right beforehand.
Yep.
I think he's played like one playoff game, if I remember correctly. Like even if that, I don't even think he's played that. I mean, it's one of those things where he's got to be able to stay healthy for a whole season, and be able to show that he can compete in the playoffs. He was almost going to be the unanimous MVP the year they went to the Super Bowl, but again, he got injured, and so he didn't win the MVP. If he would have stayed healthy, he would have won it easily. So it's just one of those things where I think he can take the Colts to the next level if he's able to stay healthy and be able to go out and do what he needs to do. Like you said, it seems like it was a toxic environment. I mean, even the coach requested to leave. I mean, you don't hear that very often when the coach is like, I don't want to be here. Like, I feel like that's like a red flag for other people they were interviewing. It's just like, what makes this so enticing to come when the previous coach was like, yeah, no, like, I don't want to be here. I don't.
Yeah.
And, a lot of coaches have a hard time too, because, NFL, it's not like college where you have full control over your team. You have full control over who you recruit and who you pick and who you go out and do everything. And in the NFL, it's not like that. If the owner says, in the draft, we want you to draft this person because it's going to sell tickets, then that's what you got to do. Like, you can't just pick, at least normally you can't just go and pick like who you want. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys have kind of shown that. I mean, Jerry Jones has picked, you can tell he's had his hand in who he picks in like every year of the draft. So
when it comes to the NFL, it all starts with the ownership. And that's been the trouble with the Lions, not to go back to them, but like with the Ford ownership, like it's been toxic, and that's where it starts. And again, like that's kind of why I'm a little I'm kind of hesitant, but also maybe we've turned a page, maybe by passing the baton there, we'll see some changes there. But and like you said, in the NFL, the owners have they just have the final say on too much, it almost seems.
Yeah, and I feel like the Eagles are going down a bad path of like being comfortable with losing and being comfortable with just trading out everyone and starting anew. The Jets organization has obviously shown like how bad it is with doing that, and all the players saying that they want it out. Miami was like that for a year or two, until this past year when they got the new coach in, and he kind of turned it around, and now it seems like people want to go there and people want to play there. But before, everyone was asking to be traded. Fitzpatrick and all the defensive people were saying they wanted out, and they were trading Larry Tunzel and everything. And so it's just like, they were going down a bad path, but then they got a coach in there to establish like a winning culture. So like you said, if the new GM and new coach is going to do that for Detroit, then that's good. But I feel like Detroit has more of an upside than the Eagles. Like, I feel like the Eagles are just spiraling out of control and just going downwards, when it comes to their culture and what they're trying to build there. I don't feel like they're trying to build anything.
It certainly seems kind of chaotic right now.
Yeah. It definitely does. Well, one good thing that we can talk about as well for Detroit, and one good thing it's if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that Megatron got voted into the Hall of Fame this year, correct? Yep. So that's one good positive thing for Detroit to kind of look at. Him and Matthew Stafford, that was the thing. That was when you guys like made the playoffs and you guys made that push, So what do you think about him like getting in for this year?
Yeah, I'm happy he's a first-time balloter. and getting in. I think it's no question. He had in terms of Hall of Famers, I think a short career.
Yeah, he did have a short one. Yeah.
Unfortunately, he left the same way Barry Sanders did, which again kind of goes back to the whole Lions culture a little bit. But I'm happy for him. Again, he's a stand-up guy just personally. And those years that he was there with Stafford, for that small window in time were some key moments as a Lions fan. Unfortunately, still never got past the hurdle of the playoff win. Couldn't pass that threshold, but the records he holds there, and the things he was able to do while he was there is, I couldn't be happier for him. Now, if they'll just repay his bonus, I'll be pretty happy with that too.
Well, it's awesome that he got in. Me as a Rams fan, I'm still upset that Torrey Holt hasn't been inducted yet. Isaac Bruce is in. If Isaac Bruce is in, I mean, Torrey Holt should be in. I mean, they
don't disagree. Yeah.
What's up?
I don't disagree.
Oh, okay. Good. And he's been left out multiple times now. I'm not saying he needed to be a first ballot, but I mean, he's already missed it like 3 times now or something like that. Like he needs to get in. He was a part of that greatest show on turf. So
you could arguably say that Isaac Bruce wouldn't be Isaac Bruce without Torrey Holt. I mean, they were a dynamic duo. If you go back, this probably predates you, but again, kind of relating back to my years in Detroit, Herman Moore and Brett Perryman were the 90s duo. And, Brett, I actually don't know if Brett Perryman's in the Hall of Fame. I know Herman Moore is, but they were a duo, and Herman Moore got the yards, he got the catches, and he came out sort of top billing, but he couldn't have done that without somebody, opposite field that was taking off. The thing that separates Calvin Johnson is that he had nobody else, and so he was double, triple teamed, and he would still go up and make those catches. So it's just, there's a reason he was called Megatron for sure.
Yeah, exactly. He was just a freaking nature. He kind of reminds me of Julio Jones, the build. Like he was just like, he wasn't built like a normal wide receiver. Like he was just like, he was jacked. And like you said, he could go up and get any catch, and that's what helped Matthew Stafford so much. He knew he could throw it up and he was going to come down with it. It didn't matter. I guess the last thing to kind of wrap things up, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. So the Houston Texans with Deshaun Watson, JJ Watt, with them and what's going on, Deshaun's, they're still saying that they're not going to trade him. He is going to be a Texan this coming year. I have a feeling that enough teams have made some good offers. I wouldn't think that any of them have been bad offers. Do you think it's a good idea for the Texans to still continue on with this, or is it going to be detrimental for the team, especially if he decides to sit out or anything like that? Would you go ahead and deal him, or would you keep him?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's me, I think the longer this goes on, I think the worse it's going to get. I don't think he's going to be suiting up for the Texans again, and I think that again, the sooner the Texans recognize that, I think the better the offer they'll get for him. And I think he's made his case pretty clear. And I don't know that I agree with the approach, but man's got to do what a man's got to do, to protect his family and his job and his well-being too. So, but I do think that, the Texans are probably better off just nipping this quickly and moving on. So I don't know what their long-term plan is. I don't know if they're saying they're going to keep him, whether they're, wheeling and dealing, or, just to kind of save face, or whether they're, full on board with trying to change his mind and keep him in there. But, I'd be surprised if he suited up next year for the Texans. I think he's too good of a player, and like you said, he can demand too much value to to suffer like that, and to just, I think it's going to end up it's going to create a toxic environment if he's around, honestly, kind of talking about that.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're not listening to the coaches and you're not listening at practice and you don't care and nonchalant and blah blah blah, that doesn't show leadership to everybody else that's there and everyone else that's coming in, trying to change the culture. But here comes JJ Watt, who basically sticks up for Deshaun and says, yeah, I don't want to be here either, kind of making a case for what Deshaun is trying to do and trying to leave. Neither of them want to be a part of a losing culture and like a losing team. And I think, like you said, it starts with the ownership, and they kind of brought that upon themselves when they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. They basically said, we don't care about you as a quarterback. We're going to take away your best weapon, and good luck. And he still had one of his best seasons he's ever had as a quarterback for them on a 4-12 team. So, and the only thing I can see is he just got paid. I mean, he got paid that big money the year before, along with Patrick Mahomes. Both Patrick Mahomes has the highest and he has the second highest, paying job. So, I don't feel as bad for him because, I mean, he's gotten paid, but I do feel like, if you want to win titles and you want to win championships, I mean, yeah, you have to go to a place you feel like you can do that. And everyone kind of deserves that. And we've talked about on the podcast before about how NBA players have started doing that now, where if they're on a bad team, they just demand to be traded to like the Lakers or someone that they know that they can win a title with. So,
it's like any other job too. The compensation for it only gets you so far, in terms of your happiness, right? And your job satisfaction. It's just like any other job. A lot of people would be willing to take a pay cut for a better job, right? And that's really what you're talking about, is like he's looking for a better opportunity and a better job. And that's the thing about the NFL and most professional sports that are interesting, is that these guys a lot of times don't have a say, and you're launched into a culture and an organization, and you and I take for granted that we have those choices. You get into a job that's a toxic environment, you fill out some resumes and you go. And these guys are traded around and locked into these contracts in a way that can be detrimental to their morale a lot of times.
Yeah, that's true. So to wrap things up, to finish it up with JJ, kind of some landing spots for him. A lot of people are saying he wants to play maybe with his brothers and with the Steelers. He obviously wants to win a title. He wants to win now. I don't know if going to the Steelers, he'd be able to win with them. There's talks of him maybe going to the Packers. That's obviously, they've been to the NFC Championship twice in a row now. And that defense is already pretty good. So, adding him to that. I was trying to think of another team. There's a third team that they were talking about for him as well, but I know the Steelers and the Packers was a big one. And the Packers, especially since he grew up in Wisconsin and he went to the University of Wisconsin. I guess where do you think would be like the best fit for him, or where do you think he's going to end up?
Well, I don't know if he listens to your podcast, but I think he did pretty well in Detroit. I think they're turning a corner, and they could use.
You gotta state your case, man. Just throw it out there,
I don't know if they could afford him, but that would be a great opportunity there for him. I think they're just on the cusp of playoff wins. I think it's going to happen. I think he could tip him over, take him over the edge there. But no, in all seriousness, the Packers would surprise me just because of how built they already are. He's such a playmaker. I think that he can make a defense, and I think that's what the opportunity he might have to see and what's presented to him is that, he may not go to the best defense in the league. But if he could go to somebody that's, top half, or middle of the pack, he's the guy that can send them over the edge. Like he's essentially the quarterback of the defense.
Yeah, that reminds me of the other team. Now, with you saying that, it actually, I was thinking who is in that area, who's like in the middle of the pack. The Titans was the other team that is going after him as well, and he would be the main person on that team if he went there.
Yeah, and that would be a good fit. I think that would make a lot of sense. Because again, they've got the offense there too, and because that's the other part of the equation he would have to look at in terms of competing is who's got an offense that because he's obviously not going to contribute to that. And that's one of the ticks I'd say is against the Steelers is that and unless they can stay healthy, the Steelers. I don't know what happened to the Steelers this year, but they've got definitely a lot of questions that need to be answered in the offseason. And as fun as it would be to go play with your brothers, again, I don't know that he's the missing piece that they need. I think they'd be better off investing elsewhere more than likely. And I haven't kept up a whole lot with Ben's situation either, Roethlisberger's, but I think they've got some question marks around that too that they're going to have to address too. So I think the Steelers probably just have bigger issues right now. As nice as that sounds, but I could see the Titans being a viable option there.
Yeah, and the AFC is kind of stacked with some of their teams. I mean, they have a lot of good teams in the AFC coming up, and of course, Tom Brady has been. Rumors have been said that he's been trying to get JJ Watt to come to the Bucs as well to make another run. And Brady's very convincing. He's able to convince people to come. So if he went to the Bucs, I would just be done with the whole football season. I'd be like, yep, nope, I'm not even gonna bother watching. Like, what's the point? Like,
yeah, it's starting to feel like that anytime Tom Brady's on a field.
It's just like, yeah, why are we even watching? Should have known that, he was going to win. Well, all right, Brian. Well, I appreciate you coming on and spending the time that you did to talk about these things. It's a lot of fun having different people's perspectives other than just me and Chris. So appreciate you taking the time to do it, especially away from the fam and stuff like that. But hopefully maybe we can get you on again some other time and we'll do like the three-headed monster. We'll have all three of us on and have it, go down that way. But anything else you want to add in before you head off?
No, I don't have a nickname. I don't have any parting shots or anything like that either. So I appreciate the opportunity. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to work on the nickname. It's going to come like next time you're on, I'm going to have it like locked and loaded, like ready to go. But all right, we appreciate you guys, listening to this part. Here in like an hour and a half or so, we'll have the second part with Chris, and we'll look forward to hearing the second half. So we'll catch you guys later.